Hey everybody, this is Michael Goldberg. Welcome to the LinkedIn Live lunch hour. It's just me today, so let's enjoy our lunch together. And today we're going to talk job search strategy. So one of the things when I do videos by myself is sometimes I feel like I may talk at you, and that's not the intention today. And so I'm hoping that you will just take a moment and kind of understand where I'm coming from. I'm going to share a PowerPoint that I did yesterday, and I think you'll enjoy it. Where I talked to a group of job seekers, mostly in Florida, about how to formulate how to prepare for a job search. So whether you've been looking for the last, I don't know, 8 weeks, or you just got noticed last week and unfortunately you find yourself in a bind, hopefully some of the things that I'm going to share with you are gonna help. So along the way, feel free to ask questions, and we'll probably spend 15-20 minutes together. This will be a short broadcast, and let's take it here. So I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully all of you can see it here. So really the first question you have to ask yourself is, why do I need a plan? Shouldn't I just go out and apply? No, no, you can't. No, you shouldn't. Just because it takes thinking through what you're going to do before you even hit that apply button. And so certainly when I work with my clients, we don't even get to applying to jobs until after we've had everything done. So let's kind of talk about why you need a plan. Well, first and foremost, you're gonna claim your own ownership in having that plan. You're gonna map out your strategy, and you're gonna set goals each week that'll help you figure out whether or not you're on the right track and where you need to pivot. It helps you track progress. Having a plan actually helps you focus and target in on the people in the organizations that you want to work for, versus casting just a wide net, which a lot of job seekers tend to do because, unfortunately, they're in a desperate situation and they need to find a job. So the first thing that they do is go out and apply all the time. So, that's super important to consider here. So, when you go through a job search, and I've been through several myself, you're going to experience the roller coaster of emotions. So, there's going to be vague job descriptions. You're going to be waiting to hear back from recruiters. Sometimes you'll even get ghosted, which means the recruiters are not calling you back. And you've heard me talk about that before, just how passionate I am about recruiters taking the time to reach out to people. And so a big shout out to my newfound recruiter friend, Carissa Reeves with Choctaw Casino, who today I just forwarded her a resume of a client of mine who I thought would be qualified for a position that she actually did a LinkedIn post about last week. And she responded immediately, and she also recommended Dots Pretzels. By the way, if you haven't tried Dots Pretzels, you're missing out. So thank you, Carissa. A big shout out there. You're going to feel insecure. Your confidence will wane week to week. Some weeks are going to be very good, where you're going to be getting traction and you'll be hearing back from your recruiters. In other weeks, you're just not going to hear anything. But that's normal. And it's okay that you're experiencing that, because everybody goes through that. You're going to get mixed messages. You're going to go through probably more than just the average 1 or 2 interviews, because there isn't that lack of candidate talent in the market. So before COVID arose, companies were moving fast because talent wasn't on the table for very long. Well, I think it's going to be at least 6 months to a year before that ever goes back to being that way. So there will be lull weeks where you might not hear a thing about the status of the position you applied for. So just be sure to focus on what you can control, right? So set goals each week. Like, specific goals. I'm going to reach out to 15 new connections each day as it relates to my targeted companies. I'm going to post something out on LinkedIn at least this once this week. So at least meaning maybe they'll post twice, or they may be more engaging or commenting more. So it just depends on what they want to do. I'd love to hear your comments and what you're feeling, about your job search journey and how things are going in the comments on LinkedIn or Facebook or YouTube or Periscope, which we're broadcasting live today. So, like I said, this is how it starts. Everybody's hitting the apply button, and they don't go in with that prepared thinking of how they're going to do it. So we're about to kind of walk through that, right? So just stop applying. Just take a few days to stop applying and start putting together a strategy. A strategy is a must, right? It's, first, and this is just the program that I walk my clients through, is you're going to start with yourself. Who are your target companies? What target industries do you want to work in? What are your values, right? That's a real key question. What are values that are important to you? And on the flip side, the companies that you want to work for, do they hold those same values or culture that you're looking to get into? And a lot of times people just take a job because it's a job, right? And that's not the way it works. If you really understand what you're looking for and have a clear path to that and understand what you want first, before diving into the resume, before diving into the LinkedIn profile, before you obviously start applying for a job, you've got to know who you are and what you want. And a lot of people say, well, I just want a director of human resources role or a director of IT role. Okay, but what kind of company do you want to work for? Do you want to work for a small company, a medium-sized company, or a large company, right? That could have a big effect on the number of applications you're going to be submitting. Some people say, well, am I pigeonholing myself by doing that? And the answer is no, you're not. You're actually honing down companies you want to work for, and you're not wasting time applying to companies that probably aren't going to be a good match for you anyway. So the second step that we go through is we build out your story. So when you're telling your story, and especially when you're answering questions from recruiters or hiring managers where tell me about a time you did this or tell me about a time you did that. Key things, and I've received a lot of comments about this from my clients, is that they really appreciate that because before they knew they had the stories there, but they just didn't know how to tell them. And so you got to be able to tell your story there. Summarize that story in 30 seconds, right? Because you got to have that elevator pitch ready. You got to be able to explain, who you are, what you do, and what you're seeking, what that goal is, right? And then we work on your resume and LinkedIn profile. And there's a lot of steps in that because you can pull the accomplishments and what you're seeking in the first two bullets there to help you develop that resume. Maybe there's some accomplishments you didn't think of from before that you want to pull over to the resume, right? Or to the LinkedIn profile. And speaking of, you never want your resume or LinkedIn profile matching one another. That's just not a good thing. And then finally, we talk about networking. And networking is the key part of this. But before you can start networking, and a lot of people do this, is they'll just start reaching out and connecting with as many people as they can in hopes of, hitting a target. And a lot of people, when they're networking, just go straight for the jugular and say, hey, I'm looking for a job. Can you help me? I can't tell you how many emails or in-mails I get from that. And so I think it's super important to have an engagement strategy when you're networking, who you target based on the people that you've targeted at specific companies or recruiters, hiring managers, executives. You need to have your engagement at the ready and know what to ask and what not to ask. And finally, and it's not on here, you have to have a routine, a daily routine. And you need to keep that routine. So every morning I wake up, I go for a morning swim. And then I have my breakfast and get ready for my day. And I know that I'm at my desk between 8:30 and 9 every morning. So when I do that and I stay on schedule and I follow that, I have more productive days. In a job search, it doesn't mean you have to spend 8 hours a day looking for jobs. That's just not going to roll. But you can certainly network with people and build out content and work on your resume or work on your LinkedIn profile or engaging with people on LinkedIn. Those are the important things you need to do. And then after you have all that, then you can apply, right? So, but let's start with targeting. So when you start with targeting, you're really, you want to focus on people and organizations. You don't want to target positions, that target jobs, right? Most people target jobs. And how do they do that? Well, they just go out and look on LinkedIn or Indeed or ZipRecruiter or Monster, Career Builder, or whatever job board out there. But the problem is that you have millions of other people who are looking for jobs right now. So it's very, very competitive. That's why it's good to either know people within the organization and build relations, either whether you have an established relationship, maybe they were a former coworker, maybe they're your next door neighbor, maybe they're a part of a networking group that you belong to. But determine who your first connections are. And then after you've at least established a presence with those first connections, then you can start to work on your second connections. And then besides the people, you want to focus on the people in those organizations, right? Because a lot of times it's good to have an employee referral, somebody that you know in that organization, whether you know them very well or not, to say, hey, would you mind walking my resume over to recruiting and helping me, right? So utilize your networks to help you land the job that you want, especially during the networking phase of your search. So what do I mean by targeted people? Again, as it says here, you're targeting recruiters, specific hiring managers, executives, connections within the company, people who can connect you to people who are at targeted companies, right? So those secondary connections that can connect you on. And by targeting companies, you're looking at company size, you're looking at industry, you're looking at culture, values, and company type. And when you have these two points nailed down, it's going to make your job search a lot less frustrating. So when you're telling your story, whether it's a 30-second pitch or you're being asked to tell someone about a time, we walk through a methodology that really does help keep everybody on cue. So what was the situation? What were the tasks that you were asked to do? What were the actions that you took? And then what were the results? It's the STAR methodology. It's super easy to really figure that out. But if you just take a moment to list out all your accomplishments using the STAR method, you're going to be a lot better off in serving your purpose to tell the stories you want to tell, right? But when it comes to that 30-second pitch, you want to follow these B's. You want to be brief, concise, proud, but you also want to be prepared. So we're going to talk about that 30-second elevator pitch right now, right? So this is the way, obviously, everybody knows this. It's the way to share your expertise in a very short, concise manner, explaining who you are, what you do, and then what you're seeking, right? And so people go, well, all right, well, what do you say? Well, you have to think about different things, and including what's your superpower? What do you bring to the table? So what do I say? Well, you need to be brief, right? It's a recap. It's not a novel. You don't want to sit there and go on and on and on, because you only have, as they say, 30 seconds of that person's attention. If there's even more distractions, you may only have 15 seconds. So you need to really drive that superpower and what makes you unique and what value add you bring to the organization, at least in the first 15 seconds. And then the last 15 seconds can be about the role that you're seeking. Be persuasive. If you can't compel someone to continue the conversation, then, that's probably not going to be a good match for you. But if you can get that person to keep asking and say, oh, that's interesting. Well, tell me more about that. What does that mean? Again, being concise and short, because you want to watch their attention span. you want to be able to nail that pretty quickly. And then, most importantly, focus on how you add value to organizations, right? So my big value to organizations, when I'm looking or when I'm out there consulting, is that I have the ability to either start up and effectively turn around or start, recruiting organizations. I also have a superpower where I can go into existing recruiting organizations and help them turn around. And I've done that successfully for 3 other companies, billion-dollar organizations. And so, anyway, I know my value add and I know what I bring to the table, and that's what I lean into, right? So when it comes to networking, make at least the effort to network with people. Make sure you thank them for their time and make it a two-way conversation, meaning that you want to pull information from them, but you want to provide information to them. Because as you know, on the LinkedIn platform and most social media platforms, it is about the give and take. Always finish up the call with, hey, Bill, thanks for your time. Or Mary, thanks for your time today. I really appreciate what you shared with me about the recruiting industry. What can I do for you? That ending question goes a real long way with folks because it shows you care about them, and it wasn't just a time to pull them for information, thank them, and then go chase it in hopes that you're going to find the next something based on that. Another good question to ask before you hang up with somebody when you're networking with them for the first time, you don't know them very well, is to say, who else do you know in this area of in this industry that might be someone I could talk to, right? So you want to lean into getting more referrals from the people you're talking with. And, join online forums. When you join online forums, make sure that you're joining online forums that are filled with people who are working, who may be able to, once you build a relationship with them, lead you into other organizations and opportunities. Definitely be patient and think long term. The job search today is going to take a lot longer because of the pandemic. Nobody knows when things are going to get back to normal. They're certainly not back to normal. And if you think they are, then good for you. That's great. But for the most part, they're not back to normal, and it will take a while. Be proactive in the ways you find you network. So if you're living in a city that does have people coming together and you're comfortable with going out into the public, which I never suggest, find proactive ways to be a part of groups that meet virtually. If they meet in person, who are these groups that you're going to be a part of, and how can they help you most, and how can you help them even more? So, for me, to be a successful networker, you really need to be a subject matter expert or a SME. You need to be remembered. You need to be a brand, and most importantly, you need to be nice. Just be courteous at the beginning and the end of the calls. So, just some big news here. I'm going to be announcing that over the next several weeks, I'll be launching a series of webinars that will be coming up, talking about how to get your resume to the top, how to build an outstanding LinkedIn profile for your job search. And I think the best one is how to source and find talent that you need to connect with, like a recruiter does. So look for that on your in your LinkedIn or on Facebook or wherever you're watching, and look forward to talking. So didn't see any questions come in, so I gather at this point there's probably not too much going on out there. Next week I will have a guest on, and so I'm excited to bring on my guest then. The guest today, unfortunately, we had to reschedule, but I think you're really going to be excited, and so I'm glad I didn't do any pre-advertising for it. But it's probably one of my biggest names that I've had on the show yet. So if there's anybody out there, I'll hang on for a few more minutes. Post in the comments, please, if you have any questions for me about job seeking. I'd love to hear what you're thinking. One of the key advantages of having a daily routine is definitely setting aside for mental health. So again, whether it's exercising or going out, whether it's reading a book. I know it's really hot here in Dallas today. I think it's supposed to be over 100 degrees, so I'm not really going to go for a walk. But clear your head at times, whether it's reading the newspaper, reading articles online, reading a book. Those are the kind of things that you definitely want to be doing. So. I tell you what, if you have questions, feel free to ask them in the comments, and I'll definitely respond once I hear it. Thanks for joining me today, and be prepared for tomorrow. We're the Job Seeker Journey Show at 1 o'clock Central Time, where I'm actually going to have international students who have recently graduated from college on, and we're also going to have an immigration attorney on to talk about how international students can land their positions before the clock strikes midnight, and unfortunately, they have to return back to their home country. So tune in tomorrow, and thanks for joining us and joining me today. Take care. Be safe and be well. Stay inside.